One coming to you again with another sort of underrated film, and today I wanted to talk about The Secret of Nimh. Yes, The Secret of Nimh. A lot of people have heard of this film if you are watching from that guy with the glasses. Everybody seems to praise this movie, even though not a lot of people have heard of it. I did not hear about this film when I grew up as a child. I did not hear about this work and that it was done by Don Bluth. All I knew was his, from his works at least, was An American Tail, The Land Before Time, and I think a few others, but the names are escaping me now. But I never heard of The Secret of Nimh. Never heard of it. Never heard of it until the Nostalgia Critic brought it up, and I thought, why not watch it? And why not classify it as a underrated film? And yes, I think this is a perfect summation. I think this film is somewhat underrated when it comes to Don Bluth's works because nobody seems to really recognize it. Is it his best? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. When I came out of it, I wasn't like thinking, wow, like this is amazing, or this is, amazing to the point where it's like, so, like, I'm so emotionally invested. I didn't really come out of it that way. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who probably disagree and feel like that it was like this very epically dark children's film, and yes, I would label it as fairly dark. However, I didn't really come out of it necessarily being or thinking that it was something so great. But I did come out of it thinking that it should be recognized as one of Don Bluth's well-known works. That's what I came out of it thinking. I didn't come out of this thinking that this was the greatest film or animated film of all time. I did not come out of it that way. But I did come out with it with a sense of, okay, the ideas are very creative, it's interesting, it has good characters, at least for the most part, even though the characters, I don't necessarily think I remember so much of the characters, again, because the characters are given fairly limited time, because the plot just kind of is really trying to move it forward, and I can understand this being a fairly plot-driven movie because this is trying to, be a plot that kind of reveals certain things as it goes on, and in doing so they maybe have to cut certain aspects of characters, but I did get a sense of the main characters for the most part, but I didn't really come out of it thinking something spectacular. That's just me personally. But I'm sure others will probably have other opinions as to the film. But for me, I just didn't. I just find myself enjoying Land Before Time better. I find myself enjoying An American Tail better. I think that's really the. I think when I think of Don Bluth, I think more of those movies than I think of The Secret of Nimh. But I think it still should be classified as an underrated film because not a lot of people look at it, and I think it should be more looked into because out of all of the films that I've known from Don Bluth, I never known of this film. So I think it's important that more people are just kind of aware of it. And we'll take it into consideration, and I think there's a lot of people that thoroughly enjoy this film, and I think it's understandable that they would. It's just for me, I found certain ideas creative, and I found the way they set everything up was nicely done, but I didn't come out of it going, wow, I really saw something new, or I really saw something like just so spectacular. That's and that's just really me. I mean, I don't know. There's just maybe others that just have different opinions on it. But I think that's thoroughly my opinion on it, but I still feel like it is one of his better works. So it's not like I'm saying that it's bad. It's not bad at all. I don't think it is a bad film at all. I do find myself being invested in it. It's just, it's not one of my personal favorites compared to something like Land Before Time or An American Tail. I just find those to be a little bit more enjoyable for me than with this film. But this film does have a lot of creative moments, a lot of dark moments too. This film is fairly dark in its colors. It's not really so light colored. There's a lot of kind of darkish tones and moments. Was I scared? Not necessarily, but I can see how kids would probably be freaked out by certain images maybe that pop up out of nowhere. In particular, maybe with the rats or with the owl that shows up. But in case you don't know what The Secret of Nimh is about, basically it's about this mouse by the name of Miss Brisby, who lives in a cinder block with her children, and one of her children, whose name is Timothy, is very sick, and she goes to find a cure. When she finds or like something that'll help with the illness, she comes back and from another mouse who gives her sort of some medication to help. He sort of tells her, you can't let Timothy out of the house, otherwise Timothy will die. He needs like 3 weeks to recover, I guess, in his bed. He can't go outside. And the problem with that is that Miss Brisby and her family, they live around an area where there's farming. And this farmer wants to farm the land, and in doing so, he'll probably destroy, technically, their house. So basically what she's trying to do is she's trying to find a way to get to the house to somehow not be where it will be harmed and damaged by the people who want to do some farming. And basically, in order to find someone who can help her move her house, she goes to these various spots. First she comes across an owl, and then this owl just basically gives like a really one-note performance, and then he just leaves. And then she just moves on to the next person who's the owl told her who can help her, and this person happens to be of the name Nicodemus, who I believe is probably, I believe he's supposed to be technically the leader of the rats. And basically he's the one who can help her. And then once she comes in contact with him, he gives her this kind of amulet, and this amulet is like has powers, and he gives it to her sort of as a in a way as a sort of a gift. And you'll kind of see how, as I'm explaining this to you, I'm not trying to give away these certain very secretive, detail-y points to the story. And you'll also notice how Miss Brisby is a widow, and how that also comes into play when she kind of realizes what her husband was involved in, and that all kind of reveals itself through Nicodemus, and you kind of see how all of these kind of secrets, and you discover really what Nimh stands for, and you'll discover why the rats are the way they are, because they're played out as fairly intelligent, and you'll kind of discover the reasoning behind that. So again, there's a lot of stuff within this plot that I think are fairly creative in their own right, but I don't think that it would take a genius to figure out this plot. I think it's not something that I don't that I think is creative, although I think it's nothing so creative that I go, oh. It's kind of that feeling that I had coming from this film. When everything revealed itself, I kind of went, okay, that's kind of, yeah, that makes sense. I wasn't really, I guess, shocked. Hi.
You gonna open up?
Yeah, I'll open up.
Okay. We're back.
Awesome.
Anything from Trevor?
Nothing. Nothing. Apologies, but so the point that I'm trying to get across to you guys is that I'm not trying to nitpick this film. I'm not trying to distort this film and say it's and try to, you know, be very critical of it. And I'm not trying to be critical of this film, but for me, into the ways that everything reveals itself and is formulated, it's fairly understandable, and it's fairly unique in its construction, but I don't think it's just so spectacular. It's kind of one of those things where I'm going, I do see like why it would maybe appeal to some people, but for me, those kinds of what they reveal and what they tell me out of everything, and it's just kind of like, I don't think the stuff that it reveals is disappointing. It's just not so, I guess, maybe grand as I would expect it to be. And I kind of came into this film thinking that. I kind of felt like this is just going to be a good kids film. And that's what it was, a good kids film. But beyond that, I don't see anything else that makes it so special. But I can understand why some people would maybe prefer it over maybe something like Land Before Time or American Tail. But for me, I find American Tail and Land Before Time, I find the characters a lot more interesting and in-depth than I found in this movie. And again, I hate to compare it to the other works of Don Bluth, but for me, this film didn't really provide me so much with characters. I didn't really feel so much the connection between Miss Brisby and her kids, because she's barely with her kids together in this film, for the most part. For the most part, she's just trying to find a way to help her kids. But you never get a sense of them being together or having a sense of a relationship. So I think those things are kind of hard for me to somehow get invested in, because when you set this character up to be, the whole point is for her to save her kids, and she's thoroughly passionate in saving her kids, it would be nice to see her connection with her kids, instead of just seeing her go through this whole process so that she can, because I think she only shares two scenes with the kids together, and I don't really see a thorough connection between her and the kids. I can tell that she is thoroughly invested for their safety and such, as any mom would, but I don't see her and her kids really develop a relationship. And I think that's why I prefer some movies that maybe have a sense of a relationship. So it's clear that I can be fully invested in it. So really, I think that's why these little things that come up just keep me from really enjoying this film. But I don't mean to be too harsh on it. I'm not trying to, but that's just my feelings coming out of it. But for the most part, I think it is underrated in the sense that, again, it's probably one of Don Bluth's best. works, but I don't think it is the best. But I think it is up there with American Tail and with Land Before Time. But I personally like those films better than I do this film. But the way the things that are revealed through the plot and such, I think it works for this kind of a film. It's just nothing spectacular, for me at least. Now, as far as acting is concerned, the voice acting is decent for the most part. You got Elizabeth Hartman, who apparently, I guess this was her last performance, really, until she died, where she plays Miss Brisby. And then you got Tom DeLuise, who plays Jeremy, and Jeremy is a crow, and you'll kind of see how he's used for, like, comic relief and such. He can be likable, I think, to a certain extent. For me, I didn't really find him, I don't know, I just didn't really find him, like, really memorable, or, like, I mean, his character is impacting in a way as far as plot-wise is concerned, but the character itself is, I think I was a little bit annoyed by him, but I think he was still nice in his nature, and I think he was trying to do good. It's just, for some reason, the klutziness and then the some of the comedy that they try to pull, it doesn't really make me laugh that much. And the funny thing is though, too, Nicodemus is barely in this film. And you'll see why if you watch the film, you'll realize why Nicodemus isn't so much in it. But he's played by Derek Jacobi. And then we do have an antagonist here, who is played by Paul Shinar, and his name is Jenner in this film. And Jenner is pretty much a one-note villain. He's kind of just like, although his motivations are kind of there, they do emphasize the point that he's just power hungry, yeah, he's just kind of crazy, and you'll kind of see how, as the plot sort of, again, this kind of a film, I can't really reveal so much to you plot-wise, otherwise it's going to give everything away, and I don't really want to give so much away. So I can't really explain, again, his motivations are really the character so much, because that would be probably revealing the plot, and I don't want to do that, but as far as an antagonist is concerned, he does a decent job of being the voice actor does a good job. All the voice acting is good, for the most part. But, as far as being, like, I guess, inspired, or maybe uplifted, or interested, I do find myself being invested at points. I do find that Mrs. Brisby's character does a decent job of trying to be the small person the small shy person who somehow has the ability to ultimately be the main protagonist and be the one who kind of carries this film. And I think for the most part, Miss Brisby is the one who really does get the most screen time and gets the most character, compared to everybody else who just has like a little bit of personality, but it's not really explored so much, except maybe with Jeremy the Crow, where you'll kind of see how he wants like a mate or something, and I don't know, I just didn't find the comedy that funny. I just thought those little points of it trying to be funny were just so odd, because how it sets this film up, it just sets it so up in such a dark way, and then you have this crow who's supposed to be comedic. I didn't understand that. It didn't, for some reason, I just did not get that. And it didn't really make me laugh, and I just thought, like, okay, let's just get to the point here, let's get to the plot, come on, let's get to the plot, It's, but it doesn't go on for so long, but at times I just kind of go, oh, this guy again. And I mean, Nicodemus is intelligent and kind of the wise old rat, but he's so one note. I mean, he's barely in this film at all. Barely in this film. And then you'll eventually see what happens to him, and then obviously he's fairly one note in that sense. And then Jenner is just this, uninteresting villain, who is really the antagonist. So really, a lot of what this film is done, and I would think this film should be really focused on and praised for, is sort of the creative stuff that's within the plot and how things reveal themselves. I think that's why people hold this to being a very good kids film, and I think that's why people really find themselves enjoying this film. And I do like the creative stuff that's revealed through the plot, and I do like the whole concepts of like this magic and such. I find that to be appealing. I find that to be great. But beyond that, and beyond Mrs. Brisby's character, I really, even though the characters are revealed and they do have dialogue, I just don't feel like they're so interesting or entertaining. I'm just more interested in the plot. This is really a plot-driven film, and at times it tries to be with characters, but then it doesn't know how to put the characters with the plot and then make it somehow convenient and work, because a lot of the time I just kind of am going, okay, where is the plot going to go now? Because every time the characters show up and try to give like dialogue, I kind of go, okay, well, where's the plot going now? I want kind of more of the plot. I mean, it's that kind of a feeling where it just doesn't get me that invested in it. But the plot is well done. Miss Brisby's character, I think, is for the most part fairly focused on, and she is the one that really drives this film. But beyond that, I don't really find it as special. But I do find it underrated in the sense that I think it's a film that should be more recognized. I think it's a film that people should watch. I think it's something that could be definitely recommendable to kids to watch at one point. But as far as it being maybe just memorable, I just didn't really find it to be all that memorable, or as engaging maybe for me personally, and from the reasons that I've explained why. Because the characters are fairly, even though some of the characters are good, I don't really root for them or anything, except for maybe Miss Brisby. I don't really get into the characters that much. I just get into the things that are within the plot and how creative it has with the whole Nimh thing, the concept of Nimh, and this basically kind of the secret of it is, which will all be revealed within the plot. So don't want to give that away. So I think the stuff that is revealed through the plot is really cool and creative, but not necessarily something that I haven't seen before, or something that something that I would say, wow, that's so cool, wow, that's just so great. But good, but really good creativity. So I apologize if this review is a little bit more of a critical one rather than being a praisey type review. But what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to reveal my personal feelings about it, because I can't just sit here and lie to you and say I thought it was spectacular. The whole thing was just absolutely magnificent. I loved it. The whole thing was just fantastic. realistic. You know, I just can't do that because I would be really lying to you if I felt that way. And I didn't come out of this film feeling like, wow, this is so great. I just came out of it going, this is a good kids film. It should be recognized as a good kids film, but I don't think it's so spectacular. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say about The Secret of Nim, for the most part. And that's why I do put it on the underrated category. I think it's not really recognized, and it should be. But I don't come out of it thinking it's so spectacular or so great. I just think it's a good kids film that should be recognized as a good kids film. But that's really all I can say about it. I don't really find myself being invested, and I really don't feel the same way about as the nostalgia critic does. I think he really likes this film, but for me, I came out of it going, it's a good kids film, but I didn't come out of it feeling like it's so great, and it's so spectacular, and the ending just leaves me in awe. And no, I just did not come out of this film feeling that way. I just came out of this film feeling like I saw a good kids film. So that's really the whole point of me explaining this to you guys. I'm not trying to be mean. If you really love this film and if you really like this film, more power to you, and I would totally understand why you would find it appealing at certain points. I totally understand. But from my viewpoint, I'd be lying if I said that I really thought it was so spectacular. But I thought that it does a good job of sort of establishing this kind of unique plot and giving you a little bit of a taste of what these different things kind of mean. And there's a lot of creativity, I think, to admire from this film, and I think that's why it should be put in the underrated category, because I think people should more recognize the creativity and the time and the effort, which I think Don Bluth really did. I think he did put a lot of effort into this film. But, I mean, you just can't please everybody, and yeah, this was just a good film for me, but it wasn't spectacular for me. But I'm sure that there's others that would say the exact opposite and would think that this is spectacular, and I totally understand if you feel that way. But for me, I just personally feel like I like some of his other works better than I do this film, just from my viewpoint. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But I think that's really all I can say about The Secret of Nim. It's a good kids film. I would definitely recommend people seeing it. But I don't label it as something so fantastic. I just label it as a good kids film, and a good underrated kids film. So I think that's really all I can say. Any questions, comments, concerns? More than happy to answer them. And until next time.